Top HFY story, permit me to interject, and just like that, 2614, r/HFY. The Galactic Arbitration Summit was as grand as it was tense. Representatives from dozens of species filled the vast, crystalline amphitheater, their languages translated by a chorus of glowing orbs floating overhead. At the center of the room sat the dispute, two towering alien species, the Krex and the Voltaren, engaged in a bitter territorial argument. Both species were powerful, ancient, and stubborn to a fault. Their words carried the weight of centuries-old grievances, with accusations flying like plasma bolts. It was clear this summit was a last-ditch effort to avoid outright war, a war that could easily engulf the galaxy. And then there was humanity, represented by Ambassador Nathaniel Reeves, a man of average height, average build, and a sharp mind hidden behind a genial smile. Humanity was still relatively new to the galactic stage, but their rapid rise in diplomacy, trade, and technology had made them a wild card. Reeves, sitting at the far end of the arbitration table, was observing the chaos with the calm of someone who knew his moment would come. Finally, the Krex overlord, a massive insectoid with glistening black chitin, slammed a claw onto the table, silencing the room. The Voltran have encroached upon our sovereign space. Their mining operations on Vrin 5 violate every treaty established since the Dawn Concordat. The Voltran delegate, a hulking, crystalline figure whose voice sounded like breaking glass, countered. The Vrin system was unclaimed and abandoned. Your species left it to rot centuries ago. Our operations there are entirely legal. The shouting resumed, echoing through the chamber. Delegates from other species muttered among themselves, their faces showing varying degrees of frustration and amusement. The situation was spiraling. That's when Reeves stood up. "Permit me to interject," he said, his voice calm but firm. The room fell silent, dozens of alien eyes turning to him. Some glowed, others blinked in patterns, and a few swiveled unnervingly. The Krex overlord sneered. "What could a human possibly add to this discussion? Your kind is barely out of its infancy." Reeves smiled disarmingly. "Perhaps. But sometimes, a fresh perspective can untangle even the oldest of knots. If I may?" The overlord hissed but waved a claw in reluctant agreement. The Voltran delegate crossed their crystalline arms, unimpressed. Reeves stepped forward, pulling up a holographic display. It showed a detailed map of the disputed Vrin system, overlaid with mining operations, historical data, and resource projections. "Let's consider the facts," he began. "The Krex claim that Vrin 5 falls within their historic borders, which, by all accounts, it does. However, the Voltran have been mining the system for decades without interference. Both sides have valid points." The room watched intently as Reeves swiped through the data. "But here's the twist. The mineral deposits on Vrin 5 have been steadily depleting. At current rates, the system will be barren within 20 years. The Krex overlord tilted their massive head. "What are you implying, human?" Reeves's smile widened. "I'm implying that this dispute isn't about territory or sovereignty. It's about a resource that's already on the brink of exhaustion. You're both fighting over scraps." The murmurs in the room grew louder. The Voltran delegate frowned, their crystalline surface dimming slightly. "If that's true, why shouldn't we continue mining? There's still value to be extracted." Reeves said, holding up a hand. "This is where humanity's unique perspective comes in. Instead of squabbling over the last dregs, why not pool your resources to invest in long-term sustainability? Combine your expertise to develop better mining technologies or explore alternatives in neighboring systems." The room was silent again, but this time the tension was different. Delegates whispered among themselves, some nodding thoughtfully. The Krex overlord's antennae twitched. "And what does humanity gain from this? Suggestion?" Reeves shrugged. "Peace in the galaxy benefits us all. But if you're asking for specifics, perhaps a joint investment in Terran mining tech would be mutually beneficial. We have some exciting developments in resource extraction that could make your efforts far more efficient." The Voltran delegate's crystalline face brightened. "Interesting. And far more appealing than war." The overlord clicked their mandibles, clearly displeased but considering. "A temporary alliance, then. For mutual benefit." Reeves stepped back, his smile now faintly smug. "Just like that, a galaxy-spanning war averted. Shall we put it to a vote?" The summit erupted in cautious applause, the delegates marveling at how a species so young could navigate such a delicate matter with finesse. Reeves returned to his seat, feigning humility, but he couldn't help the quiet satisfaction radiating from him. Humanity might have been new to the stars, but they had proven, once again, that their greatest weapon wasn't their technology, it was their ability to turn chaos into opportunity. And just like that, humanity earned its seat at the table. After the summit, Ambassador Nathaniel Reeves lingered in the grand halls of the Galactic Arbitration Center. The ornate architecture of alien craftsmanship surrounded him, hovering spires, bioluminescent panels, and walls that shimmered like liquid metal. Despite the diplomatic success, his mind churned. The Krex and Voltron agreement was tenuous, and Reeves knew that any misstep could reignite tensions. As he stepped onto a levitating platform to return to the Terran embassy, his comm implant buzzed. It was his aide, Rachel Kwan, a sharp and unflappable woman who had been instrumental in gathering the data he'd presented during the summit. "Nice work, Nate," Rachel said, her voice carrying both admiration and urgency. "But you might want to head back quickly. We've got a situation." Reeves sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "What now?" "Krex intelligence just flagged a Voltron scout ship near another disputed system. They're accusing the Voltron of using the summit as a distraction while expanding their reach." Reeves groaned. "Of course they are. What's the Voltron response?" "Denial, naturally," Rachel replied. "But their fleet movements suggest they're hiding something. This could spiral out of control faster than we can intervene." Reeves reached the embassy, striding through its sleek, metallic halls toward the command center. The room was a hive of activity, with analysts poring over holographic maps and intelligence feeds. Rachel stood near the main console, her sharp gaze fixed on a live feed of the disputed system. "They're both posturing," she said as Reeves approached. "If we don't act fast, we'll have a full-scale skirmish." Reeves studied the map. "What do we know about the system?" "Primarily uninhabited," Rachel replied. "But there's a small asteroid field rich in valuable minerals. It's likely the Voltron scouted it as a fallback in case the Vryn deal fell through." Reeves nodded. "So we're looking at another resource grab disguised as territorial defense. Typical." He turned to the comms officer. "Get me direct lines to the Krex Overlord and the Voltron delegate. Let's see if we can defuse this before it blows up." Minutes later, Reeves sat before two holographic displays. On one side was the Krex Overlord, their mandibles clicking in irritation. On the other, the Voltron delegate glimmered faintly, their crystalline form reflecting shades of agitation. "This is unacceptable," the Overlord hissed. "The Voltron's deceit knows no bounds. They claim peace while invading our rightful space." The delegate's voice was sharp and brittle. "We have no need for deception. If the Krex are so concerned, perhaps they should monitor their own fleets, which are dangerously close to our holdings." Reeves raised a hand, his voice calm but commanding. "Enough. If you two can't resolve this, you're handing the galaxy a front-row seat to your incompetence. Is that what you want?" The Overlord recoiled slightly, their antennae twitching. The delegate narrowed their eyes but stayed silent. "Good," Reeves continued. "Now, let's address the real issue. Both of you want access to the asteroid field, and neither of you trusts the other. Am I correct?" The two figures grudgingly nodded. "Then let's solve this the human way, cooperation through oversight. Terra will deploy an independent mining operation in the disputed field. The resources will be equally shared between the Krex and Voltron, with transparency guaranteed by a joint monitoring council." The Overlord bristled. "You propose to profit from our conflict?" "No," Reeves replied smoothly. "I propose to end it. Humanity gains nothing from watching you destroy each other, but we do benefit from a stable galaxy. Besides, our mining tech is years ahead of anything either of you have. You'll get more resources, faster, and without spilling a drop of blood." The delegate tilted their crystalline head, considering. "A neutral overseer. Could work. And it would prevent unnecessary escalation." The Overlord clicked their mandibles, clearly unhappy. "This proposal is tolerable. But the Krex will not tolerate further Voltron provocations." "Then don't provoke each other," Reeves said flatly. "This agreement only works if both sides stick to it. Break it, and you'll answer to the entire Galactic Council." The holograms flickered as the two leaders logged off, leaving Reeves and Rachel alone in the command center. Rachel exhaled deeply. That was bold. You think they'll stick to it? They'll have to, Reeves said, leaning back in his chair. They may hate each other, but they hate losing resources more. And we've just given them a way to save face. He glanced at the map, where the disputed system was now marked as under arbitration. Just like that, he murmured, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Another day, another crisis averted. Rachel chuckled. Let's hope it lasts longer than a day this time. Top HFY story, permit me to interject, and just like that, 2614, r/HFY. The year was 2614, and humanity's reputation as a species of unparalleled adaptability had cemented itself across the stars. Earth was now a mythic cradle of life whispered about in hushed tones among alien circles. The Galactic Union, a coalition of thousands of species, had long since learned not to underestimate humans. Yet, for all their achievements, humanity was still full of surprises. Permit me to interject. The debate hall aboard the Union's Grand Capital Station was packed. Representatives from every member species were present, their holographic displays casting colorful lights into the massive chamber. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Naresh Dutt, humanity's representative, a man with sharp eyes, a calm demeanor, and a reputation for turning impossible situations into diplomatic victories. The argument had been raging for hours. The issue, a resource dispute between the Lithari, a race of crystalline beings, and the Threx, massive insectoids with hive minds. The Lithari claimed the Threx were mining on their ancestral grounds, desecrating sacred crystal formations. The Threx argued that the deposits were critical for their survival, as they were the primary source of energy for their hive cities. Ambassador Dutt, the Lithari representative, intoned, its voice resonating like chimes in a gentle wind, surely, you cannot condone such blatant disregard for heritage and sanctity? Before Dutt could respond, the Threx overmind buzzed with impatience, its chorus of voices blending into a thunderous rumble. Sanctity does not fill bellies or power our homes, practicality must prevail. Dutt raised a hand, his expression neutral. Permit me to interject, he said, his voice cutting through the noise with practiced authority. The chamber quieted. This conflict is not about resources or heritage, it's about fear, fear of loss, fear of instability, fear of disrespect. The room grew still as Dutt continued, humans understand fear intimately. We've faced extinction more times than we can count, through war, climate disasters, and our own mistakes, but fear doesn't have to divide us. He turned to the Lithari. Your crystals are more than resources, they are symbols of identity, but symbols can inspire collaboration, not just division. Then to the Threx, your survival is paramount, but survival achieved through destruction breeds resentment. Cooperation will sustain you longer than conflict. Human platitudes, the Lithari scoffed, though there was less conviction in their tone. The Threx, meanwhile, tilted their massive heads, considering his words. Dutt smiled. Allow humanity to mediate. We've been building solutions to impossible problems for centuries. Let us show you how. Just like that. 2 months later, the first Lithari Threx cooperative mining operation was operational. Lithari engineers, guided by human innovation, devised methods to extract energy from the crystals without damaging their sacred formations. The Threx, in turn, shared their bioengineering expertise, helping the Lithari grow new crystal formations faster than ever thought possible. At the heart of it all was a human-designed reactor, blending the unique energies of both species into a self-sustaining power source. The project was hailed as a marvel of cooperation, and representatives from across the galaxy visited to witness it. Ambassador Dutt watched the opening ceremony from the sidelines, a quiet smile on his face. One of his aides approached, a young woman with an eager expression. Sir, how did you know it would work? I didn't, Dutt replied with a shrug, but humans have this knack for improvisation. We adapt, we listen, and we find solutions that others don't see. The aide laughed. Just like that? Dutt's smile widened. Just like that. And so, humanity's reputation as the galaxy's most innovative problem solvers grew, not through conquest or domination, but through the simple power of understanding and a willingness to interject at just the right moment.